What the happened in Super Bowl 45. The quarterback matchup was an interesting one between two guys who had been in the league relatively the same amount of time, but had vastly different careers up until this point. Big Ben Roethlisberger, who'd won 2 Super Bowls up to this point with the Steelers, was no stranger to the big game, but he was also accused of 2 counts of sexual assault, which he was punished for by being suspended for only 4 games that season. His opponent, Aaron Rodgers, spent the beginning of his career behind Green Bay legend Brett Favre, but seamlessly took over the starting role, adding to his own legend that would lead to this Super Bowl appearance. Steelers got the ball first and started with a quick screen to Hines Ward in the flat, where he'd get blockers out in front and pick up 4 before going down. On second, the Packers got Mendenhall down in the backfield for a loss of 4, leaving them at 3rd and 10, where Big Ben dropped back from the gun and just threw it away in the direction of Antonio Brown, and they'd be punting away their first possession of the game. Vermon Williams actually muffed the punt, and when the pile was eventually cleared, it was recovered by Green Bay, and Aaron Rodgers could get to work. Rodgers caught it and quickly threw it over the middle for Jennings, but it was broken up, and on second, James Starks looked like he ran into a brick wall. On 3rd and 9, the Steelers came across early, giving Rodgers a free play, but it didn't matter, as he found Donald Driver deep down the seam for a huge gain that got them near the logo. Next play, he faked, but couldn't hook up with Jordy Nelson, throwing it way over his head incomplete. Starks then took a short run up the middle for only 3, and on 3rd and 7, Rodgers launched a beautiful rainbow for Nelson down the sideline, but it went right through his outstretched hands, and they'd have to punt it right back to the Steelers. They started with a great outside handoff for Mendenhall, who managed to pick up about 15 before getting tackled, and then they went right back to him again on the next play, where he followed the fullback for another great gain of 9. Before the next snap, a false start backed them up to 2nd and 6, where Roethlisberger rocketed one out to Mike Wallace, who made a man miss, and fell forward for 4, setting up 3rd and 2, where Big Ben launched one up the seam for his tight end, Heath Miller, who couldn't haul it in through the contact. The Super Bowl would begin with 3 punted drives in a row. Rodgers loaded up and overthrew Jennings down the sideline on 1st and 10, before hitting Jordy Nelson on a deep spot route to set up 3rd and inches, where Starks took the handoff, was initially bounced backward, but got around the edge and picked up the first down and more at the 37. A quick snap and throw from Rodgers to Nelson got them another 9 yards, and they handed it to Starks up the gut, where he got just enough for the first. Aaron faked it to him before avoiding pressure and getting the throw off to Brandon Jackson just before getting tripped by James Harrison, and the backup running back turned and got the pack past midfield and into Pittsburgh territory. Starks took the handoff and followed the fullback on the next play, and he'd fall forward after gaining 7 yards before Aaron Rodgers dropped back on second and got rid of it to Corey Hall to set up 3rd and 1, where Rodgers dropped back and slung a perfectly placed ball right over Jordy Nelson's shoulder, and he rolled into the end zone for the first score of the game, and Crosby's kick made it 7-0 nearing the end of the first quarter. Pittsburgh started pinned deep due to a penalty on the return, and on the first play, Ben pump faked, then let go of a severely underthrown duck after being hit, and cornerback Nick Collins caught it, tiptoed the sideline, and weaved through Pittsburgh's offensive line and dove across the plane for a pick 6. And with another Crosby kick, it was suddenly 14-0, and only 24 seconds had elapsed off the board. Pittsburgh started off the next drive with a run to Mendenhall, where he tumbled forward for 4, before handing it to him again and letting him slash through the defense for about 10 and a first down at midfield. The Steelers set up a wide receiver screen for rookie Emmanuel Sanders, where he got a good gain of about 5, but a block in the back moved them back to 1st and 16, where Ben got great protection before dumping it to Mendenhall for a gain of 7. On 2nd and 9 from the logo, Roethlisberger dropped back and slipped, delivering a low, uncatchable ball for wide-open Heath Miller, and he seemingly aggravated an injury, but stayed in the game, breaking the pocket on the next play and hauling for the sideline, getting a first inside Green Bay's 35. Mendenhall got his leg snagged in the backfield by Charles Woodson and ended up losing 2, before Roethlisberger dropped back and threw one for Sanders on an out route that was broken up. On 3rd and 12, Ben zipped one to Sanders again on a deep curl, where he spun around and was tackled, but his forward progress got them a clutch first. Roethlisberger play faked and rolled right before pump faking to his tight end and being brought down by Clay Matthews after falling forward for 2 yards. They tried an outside run with Mendenhall next, but the Packers did a great job of containing him for only a 1-yard gain, before Roethlisberger dropped back on 3rd and 7 and pump faked and thrown it to Mike Wallace behind the sticks, and he was popped and brought down well short of the line, and they'd have to settle for 3 early in the second quarter. Rodgers tried a back shoulder ball to Jennings on 1st, but they couldn't hook up, and on 2nd he hit James Jones on a quick hitch for 5. Driver caught it on a stick, but was tackled a yard shy of the marker, and they'd go 3 and out. Steelers started the next drive with a run to Mendenhall, who bounced it outside and ran over Woodson for a good gain of about 7, but a holding call nullified the gain, and on the next play, Roethlisberger slung it to Wallace Wallace, who got almost all of what they needed back instantly, setting up a 3rd and 4, where Mowell Moore took the carry and showed off some good vision, cutting back and then cutting again to make something out of nothing, picking up 7 yards and a first. Next play, Ben had all day to survey the field before squirting through the center of the line and gaining 5. They tried Moore again, but this time he was stopped in the backfield, and on 3rd and 6, Roethlisberger flung it over the middle to Antoine Randall L., where he got them into Green Bay territory. Mendenhall came back in and tried to stiff arm on 1st, but ended up slipping and going down behind the line, and on 2nd, Ben tried Wallace over the middle on an in, but lurking corner Jarrett Bush drove on the ball and picked it off, and Aaron Rodgers would get it at midfield. A quick fling to Greg Jennings got them a few on 1st, and on 2nd, Rodgers struck with Jordy Nelson on a curl again for a big gain that got them inside Pittsburgh's 35. Stark stumbled on an outside carry before recovering and picking up the 1st, before Rodgers dropped back and delivered a rocket to Jennings up the seam, where he was hammered by Troy Polamalu, but not before the ball broke the plane for a touchdown. Crosby hit his 3rd extra point. The score was 21-3 with 2 minutes left in the half. The Steelers urgently got to work as Big Ben threw a high bullet to Randall L., who snagged it and got moving for a few more to get Pittsburgh to the 40 before the 2-minute warning. Roethlisberger slung it down the sideline for Mike Wallace on the next play, but Woodson was on his inside shoulder and broke it up before the blitz forced Ben to throw it away quickly on 2nd, where it was tipped and fell incomplete. On 3rd and 10, Ben dropped back again and threw a wobbler into heavy traffic for Hines Ward, who slid down and caught it at the 26. He then went to future white woman advocate Antonio Brown on a shallow crosser, and he got tackled in bounds for only 1, and then they'd have to take a timeout before Roethlisberger made another great tight window throw for Hines Ward on a deep dig to get them inside the 10, and with 46 seconds left in the half, Ben surveyed with all day in the pocket before lofting one to Hines Ward in the corner of the end zone, and they'd score. Swisham's kick cut the Packers' lead to only 11 right before the half, and Green Bay would run out the half with a handoff to Starks. The Packers got the ball to start the 2nd and started with a short run by Starks, but they'd get backed up by a hold. The second time around, Aaron launched a quick one to James Jones, who weaved forward for half of what they needed, and on 2nd, another penalty, a false start, backed them up again. Aaron threw it to Nelson on a quick hitch, where some evasive maneuvers got him 10 yards to set up 3rd and 5. Rodgers then dropped back again before perfectly leading Jones on the slant, but he dropped the ball, and after that, they'd just be punting it away. The Steelers got it back at midfield, and they started with Mendenhall, where he bounced it outside and got rolling down the sideline for about 17. Isaac Redmond carried it next, stumbling forward for a few before Roethlisberger avoided the rush, pump faked, and scrambled for 6 to set up 3rd and 1, where a cut back to the outside by Redmond got him loose, where he ran and then was pushed out inside the 10-yard line. Mendenhall came back into the game and followed the pulling guard through the hole and made his way into the end zone, and suddenly the Steelers were back in it, and with a kick that barely fit inside the upright, they were down 1 score early in the 3rd. A short fall forward for Starks set up 2nd and 7, where Aaron had to get rid of it quickly with a hot blitzer coming after him, and his rocket ball bounced off Jordy Nelson's hands incomplete. On 3rd and 7, Rodgers stepped up, but got his leg snagged by James Harrison, who promptly brought him down, and once again, they'd have to punt it away. Mendenhall took the first carry of the drive, but only got 1, and on 2nd, Mike Wallace took a wide receiver screen upfield for a good gain of 8, but got a generous spot for a first. And next play, Ben took a shot for him again, but it was way overthrown, and they'd missed their chance for a quick score. 2nd down proved more fruitful as Ben hit Hines Ward coming over the middle on the dig, and he juked one man but couldn't get the other one to fall for it, gaining 14 and getting inside the 30. Next play, Pittsburgh tried a PA boot, where Ben's pass got tipped by Matthews, who tried to catch it for the interception, but it fell incomplete. On 2nd, Roethlisberger hitched and had to dump it off to Heath Miller, but the defense was disciplined, bringing him down in the backfield, and on 3rd and 13, Big Ben tried stepping up but got drilled by Frank Zombo, and they'd have to try a long kick where Swisham just shanked it wide left, and they'd come up empty after starting with good field position. Rodgers got it at the 42 and rolled out before loosing an absolute bullet to Nelson over the middle to get them to Pittsburgh's 40 in one play. Starks took the handoff to the outside next and was blasted coming around the edge for a loss, before Rodgers threw for his tight end Corliss on the stick to get them to 3rd and 8, where he dropped back again and launched a rocket up the seam for Swain, and they'd have another drop. They'd punt it back to Pittsburgh deep in their own territory, and they'd start with a run to Mendenhall, who'd pick up 4, before Ben faked and then actually threw it to Wallace in the flat for another short gain on 2nd, and on 3rd, he threw it for Wallace again, who was wide open on the out route, but the ball zipped through his hands high, and they'd miss their chance to take the lead again. A mild crash out by Green Bay's returner led to them moving back to their own 12, where Aaron missed Corliss high and behind up the seam on 1st, before quickly throwing it away on 2nd, and on 3rd down, Rodgers threw a heater for Swain on the deep curl that would have gotten them a first, but once again, it was a drop to kill the drive. Pittsburgh got it in great field position after a short punt at Green Bay's 41, where they called Mendenhall's number and he stumbled forward and picked up 8 before going out. Next play, he tried carrying it with 2 hands, but Clay Matthews' helmet popped the ball free and Green Bay's linebacker Bishop recovered it. The momentum was now back on their side. Rodgers was forced to throw it away on the first down attempt, but on second, he hit Jordy Nelson in the flat for a short pickup, setting up 3rd and 7, where he hit James Jones past the sticks, rolling right for a clutch first that moved them to Pittsburgh's side of the field. He then missed his running back Jackson on the check down on first before ripping it over the middle for Nelson, who dropped it again, leaving them at 3rd and 10, where Rodgers stepped up and ripped it to Nelson again on a skinny post, and he ran across the field past the linebackers, and Polamalu barely pushed him out as he tried to dive to the pylon. From the 2-yard line, Rodgers stepped up and tried jumping for some reason before getting sacked from behind, losing 6 yards. On second, he looked left and came back right, flicking his wrist and throwing for Jennings in the back corner of the end zone, and he caught it wide open. Crosby booted it right down the middle, and the score was 28-17 early in the 4th. Antonio Brown gave the Steelers a good return, getting it all the way to the 34 before Ben threw it quickly off his back foot to Spieth to get them near the marker. On second, he found Wallace on the shallow crosser, where he turned upfield and got them into Green Bay territory. Packers blitzed on the next play, and Roethlisberger basically had to throw it away in Brown's direction. They threw it quickly on a screen for Wallace again, who played around a great block by Hines Ward to pick up 14 and another first. A holding penalty on the next play brought them back after Ben checked it to his tight end in the flat, and on 1st and 20, Wallace caught another wide receiver screen, but the defense was wise to it and he could not get much. On second, Ward was wide open on the deep spot route, where he surged forward to set up 3rd and 3, where Wallace beat the press coverage and Ben hit him rolling down the sideline, and he'd gallop past the safety into the end zone. Ben pitched the ball on the option play to Randall L. for a successful 2-point conversion, and suddenly it was a field goal game with 7.5 minutes to go. First play of Green Bay's drive, Rodgers tried stepping up but got DP'd in the backfield for a loss of 4. On 2nd and 14, they got an empty, and Rodgers found Nelson quickly on the spot route to set up 3rd and 5 that became 3rd and 10 after a false start. Rodgers dropped back and zipped a heater to Jennings running up the seam from the slot, and Polamalu barely made a touchdown-saving tackle to stop Jennings at their 44. Starks galloped around the edge to pick up 14 on first down, getting them to the 30 before they gave it to him again, and he fell forward for 1, where Rodgers loosed a back shoulder ball for Jones that led him out of bounds inside Pittsburgh's 10. A quick throw to Crabtree only got them 1 on first, and on second, James Jones caught the screen, but Jennings whiffed the block and he'd only pick up 2. On 3rd and goal, Rodgers tried Nelson this time on the corner route, but he was a little too slow and white to go get it, and they'd have to settle for 3 and pray that Pittsburgh wouldn't reach the end zone with 2 minutes left. Green Bay cleverly squibbed the kick to force a long return that took the 2-minute warning, and on first from their own 13, Roethlisberger found Heath Miller over the middle on a deep stick for a quick conversion. He then threw low for Hines Ward, who went down and got it, but the clock would keep running, and on 2nd and 5, he was pressured and threw it away. On 3rd, Roethlisberger dropped back, spied by A.J. Hawk, and launched it deep, way over the head of Wallace, incomplete. He dropped back again and empty on 4th and 5, and threw a high bullet up the seam to Mike Wallace, who was heavily contested, and the ball fell incomplete. The Packers just knelt on the ball, and the game was over. The Packers' future looked golden, but neither they or the Steelers have reached the big game since. Hey guys, thanks so much for watching. Please subscribe to the channel and click the thumbs up on the video if you liked it. Also, I'd really appreciate if you guys could join my Patreon for early access to new videos, and I have a couple exclusive game reactions that I can't post here on YouTube, like my reaction to this year's Super Bowl. Anyways guys, I'm going back in time and making a what the f happened video for every past Super Bowl, and I even have one for this year's Super Bowl, so go and check it out. Peace!